Good afternoon. At least it's afternoon, early evening here. I am Day McAllister, and welcome back to my channel and to this opportunity to have conversation, honest conversation, about what it is to live with a mental health challenge in the United States of America. The last few weeks, I took a break. I was away from social media, not because anything was wrong, but just because I've learned that sometimes I have to take a break in order to remain healthy, and that's better. Taking a break in advance to remain healthy as opposed to having to take a break because something has happened. But I wanted to talk to you all this evening about a subject that I've touched upon before, but I haven't gone into great detail, and that's guardrails. This is related to the conversation we've had about scaffolding. As I've said to you before, scaffolding is something that most adults have, especially in the United States. Scaffolding is an example of the people in your life who help you do adulting. The people in your life that help you do adulting. And as I've said before, here in the United States of America, I can't speak to other contexts. There are certain people who we expect to have scaffolding on their life, and other people who we judge really harshly when they have scaffolding in their life. So, in our context, if you are white, if you are male, if you are affluent, if you are well off, if you are neurotypical, there's an expectation, if you have all those qualities, there's an expectation that there's going to be scaffolding in your life. That if there are children in your home, somebody else is the primary caregiver. If there's food that's being prepared in your home, somebody else is preparing it. If your house has to be maintained, kept clean, somebody else has that as their primary role. And we provide that scaffolding to straight men who are affluent so that they can focus on work, right? So that they could be at their best, so they can be breadwinners, so that they can attend to the important part. And we socialize them that way to expect that women or somebody, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be women because you don't have to be straight in order to get those privileges. You can also be a gay white man who is affluent. You could be a black man who is affluent and straight or queer and get a lot of those same perks, right? That's somebody else's job, not my job, somebody else's job. It is to take care of all of those things. So there are people in our society who we believe are entitled to scaffolding, but often when poor people, when women, we hear this a lot when women are CEOs, when a woman is a CEO and has a career as a primary focus, then we want to know who's going to take care of the kids, who's going to take care of the husband, who's going to take care of the house. In other words, you're not entitled to scaffolding. It's your job to be somebody else's scaffolding. When you are a person who lives with mental health challenges, you have to have scaffolding. You have to be intentional about the people in your life who are going to help you to adult. And these people provide support for you. They are conversation partners. They may be on the phone with you when you're having a difficult time getting up in the morning. They may talk you through some of the daily activities you have to do when maybe you're in a bit of depression, or maybe you're ramping up if you're like me and you are bipolar. So that's one thing, to have people who are scaffolding. These are the people who sort of help with the day to day life. But what I have referenced in some of my other time with you is the need for guardrails. Guardrails are specific to people who are living with a mental health challenge. Now, that doesn't mean that other people don't benefit from guardrails, because I believe the higher you get professionally, the more guardrails you need. But that's just my own personal opinion. I'm not saying that that's true for everybody. But there are often moments when I observe people on TV and I wonder to myself, who are the people in your life that could tell you no? Who are the guardrails? Who are those folks who can, even when you're off believing that you're doing what you're supposed to do, they can step in and say to you, baby, that ain't it. That's not it for you. That's not it today. That's not it tomorrow. That's not going to be it. Okay. So when you think about a guardrail, I think of guardrails in terms of my car. When I'm driving down the highway and I'm getting ready to get off on an exit, sometimes that exit has a guardrail. Now, usually when there's a guardrail on an exit, before I see the guardrail, I see an indicated posted sign that is telling me this is the speed I should go when I'm coming off this exit. So I'm on the highway, I'm maybe going 65 miles an hour, maybe 70 miles an hour. And when I'm coming off that exit, someone has verbally warned me with that sign. Hey, you should not try to do this curve at that speed. You should do this at 35 miles an hour. You should do this at 25 miles an hour. And then they even put the little signs up, the little arrows to tell you. In my life, as a person who lives with a mental health challenge, I often have a similar thing. When I start coming off a curve too hot, I'm doing too much, I'm ramping up towards mania, there are people in my life who start saying, you need to slow down. You're going 75 miles an hour, you're probably going to need to go 35 miles an hour. They start putting up those yellow signs. But sometimes, if you're like me, when I'm driving, I decide, you know what? This is a high performance vehicle, and I can take this curb at a little more than 25 or 35. Now, to be fair, I don't do it at 75 miles an hour. But I do believe in my heart of hearts that I can do it at more than 25 miles an hour. So sometimes I blow right past that warning. I blow past the people who are saying to me, Day, you need to slow down. I don't know if you've ever been like that, but sometimes I blow right past that. Day, you need to slow down. I'm going and going and doing and doing, and I'm excited that I can go and I'm excited that I can do. And the people are like, Day, you need to slow down. And I don't listen. I just keep going. I tell them I can't slow down. I don't know if you've ever said that to people. People notice that you're going or you're really, really tired, and people tell you to rest. And I'll say, I can't rest, right? I have too much to do. I have work I have to do. I have to be here. I have to be there. So I can't rest. I can't afford to rest. I can't afford to slow down, right? And usually that's a bad sign. If somebody's telling me that I look like I need a nap, or I look like I need to rest, or I'm going too fast, if I blow past them, I need a guardrail. That's the other thing that happens when you're driving. They give you those warnings, boo boo, you should go 45 miles an hour. Sweetheart, you should slow yourself down to about 25, 30 miles an hour. They will say those things. But then the engineers include on that roadway a guardrail, something that is hard enough that even if I come careening off of that curve faster than I should, if I hit it with my missile, which is what a car is, that guardrail is strong enough to stop me. Now, it may destroy my car. It may then more than likely is going to cause significant damage. But the point is, I will be okay, right? I will be okay. That is a guardrail. And so, as a person who lives with a mental health challenge, I have learned that I have to have people who function as guardrails, people who are that hard line, people who can say no to me, even when I believe that I'm good, even when I think that I'm okay. There are people in my life who can say a no, and no matter what state of being I am in, I can hear their no and it arrests my behavior. It stops me in my tracks. It causes me to pull back. My therapist is one of those people who can tell me no. But it can't just be my therapist, because I see my therapist a couple times a week and I can get into a lot, baby, I can get into a lot of trouble the rest of that time. And so there are people who I trust, who have receipts with me, who I know love me and care for me, but it's not enough to love me and care for me. They also know how to handle me. What do I mean by that? I mean, some people are too judgmental to be a no person in my life, because when they come at me with a no, that judgment would come with the no. And I would feel guilty. I would feel shame. And if I start spiraling into guilt, into shame, I'm likely not going to do what they're saying. So these are people who have shown an ability. For me, I need kindness. Even when there's a no, I need compassion, right? There's a way to be firm. Some people use things like the brutal truth. I'm going to be brutally honest. Why you got to be brutal? Why? For what good reason is it essential for you to be brutal? I'm not one of them people. Don't be brutal with me. You can be honest with me. I want you to be a truth teller. But any part of you that feels like you have to come at me with a certain level of aggression in order for me to understand, baby, it's soft over here, okay? I'm lesbian and I wear bow ties, but I'm a lesbian, okay? I am soft, Okay, I am soft and I want it soft. And I say that to people. You don't have to do all of that. I grew up in an environment where there was a certain amount of that kind of, and I'm not unique in that. A lot of black people have had that experience where parents have a certain level of roughness with you because they want to communicate to you that this is a life or death issue, right? So there's a look that communicates, stop what you're doing, don't move. There's a tone that communicates, stop what you're doing. And as a kid, that tone was very helpful. It saved my life. But as an adult, I can take offense to that. As an adult, I'm like, don't talk to me like I'm a child. Don't speak to me as if I am just my illness and I am not capable of participating in my wellness. That touches me in a particular way. So the people who serve as guardrails in my life are people who understand that I am living with a mental illness. I am not that illness alone. I am many things. And so even when I am not fully capable of making the best, the most sound decisions, I am no different than any other person who makes maybe the not best or not sound decisions because they've had a little too much to drink. Because they are caught in the throes of love, and love will make you do stupid stuff. Because they are having a triggered moment where they're living more in their past than they are in their present, because they are not utilizing the gifts that their therapist has given them and they are functioning in a toxic relationship. There are lots of reasons why people make poor choices. Okay. Mental health is just one of them. And so when a person is making a set of poor choices, the way that we speak to them to get them to arrest, to stop, to cease and desist those choices is dependent upon that person. And what I'm saying is for me, for Davita Dell McAllister, I need softness. I need somebody who can be firm, but still has that gentle touch to them, that softness when they're telling me, no, I don't think this is a good idea. I love you and I care about you, and I don't think this is a good idea. As opposed to, you bet not. Baby, I'll be 53 this year. Don't come at me, but you bet not. That's not the way to get me to do any of the things you're trying to get me to do. That's not it. But I do need people who, when they say no, there is something deep inside of me that resonates. I know this tone. I know this person. I know they love me. I know they care about me. If they are saying no to me, I have to stop. And so in my care team, I have what's called a front office. I told you all before, in my care team, I've set it up like a basketball team. And so I have a general manager and I got a front office. And there are people in that front office, they're like the executive functioning of my brain that I am able to export from time to time. From time to time, when I'm not at baseline, when I'm in hypomania, when I'm approaching mania, especially if I get all the way to mania, my executive function isn't working the way I need it to. But the problem is in my mind, okay, like a Temptation song, in my mind, I believe what I'm saying is making good sense. That's the thing about mania, right? You get so amped up, you have so much energy, you're able to see things so clearly. You genuinely believe that you have discovered the answer to fill in the blank. Okay. And what you are seeing, what you are understanding is at a higher level than other people. And to some extent, for some part of that, that's true. The problem is for the parts of it where it's not true. Okay. So, yes, people who are in a manic state can be incredibly creative. Sometimes they write their best music. They write their best chapters if they're writing, fiction. It can be this really creative space if you are creating clothing and art and all that kind of stuff is true. But there are a couple, two, three things, boo. Let me just share with you, not functioning on a higher level, functioning in a space that's not helpful to you or to other people. And so when you're walking that line, though, you believe that all of it is brilliant. You believe that all of it is insightful. And because you believe that deep in your being, there have to be people around you who can safeguard you. I refer to those people in my life as my guardrails. And so my front office, which is the executive level of my care team, is a much smaller group of people. It's three women These are women that I have known for years and years and years. These are women that at other moments in my life, they have functioned in a way that their advice, their counsel, their wisdom, their love, their care was a godsend to me. And sometimes the front office calls in some people. My best male friend has been called to the front office to offer his perspective, to participate in a conversation. Now, I will say there's a level of vulnerability that having this front office calls for me. Allowing other adult people to tell you no and agreeing to adhere to it requires a level of vulnerability, because again, there are moments when I feel like I am perfectly fit and capable to make these decisions, and here are these other people telling me no, or telling me you have to convince us that this is a good idea. And I'm an autonomous, independent adult. I don't want to have to convince nobody that something that I have the resources to do, or the desire to do, or the will to do. I don't have to convince somebody that any of that is true. And yet there are moments because of my mental illness where I absolutely need to do that. The other thing is, and this is a harder thing to say out loud, but it's true. Sometimes I don't have the resources to do it. I want to do a thing and I don't have the resources. And I mean that in all ways. I don't have the resources financially to get it done. I don't have the resources in terms of my own energy to get it done. I don't have the resources in terms of my ability to think through the logistics to get it done. I don't have the resources in terms of the patience to get it done, but I want to get it done. Right. And I want to employ these people in my life to fill in those gaps to help me get it done. And most of the time, they're willing to do that. But as guardrails, sometimes they say no. And when they say no, I have to sit in that. And part of the moment of sitting in it is recognizing I gave them this job. Right? I gave you the job to tell me no. And at this moment, I don't want you to do that job. I want you to do another job, which is to be a yes person. Okay. I want you to co sign on this thing because I want to get it done. And so, if you have good guardrails, if these are strong relationships, loving relationships, relationships that have been forged over decades, if you're my age, then they are able to hear that, right? They're able to hear, I know you want me to say yes, but it is my responsibility to say no. And here's why, right? So this isn't a conversation between adult people or a child where folks are saying no because I said no. That would not work. This is a loving discourse where we are working together to help determine and discern what is the best course of action for me. So here's what I would say to you in conclusion, friends. If you don't have people in your life who could tell you no, ask yourself why. Why don't you have those kinds of people who, when you come up with this brilliant, wonderful idea, there's somebody around who could say, ooh, I don't think so. I don't think so. Right? You want to take on this one more job. You want to take on this one more committee, this one more assignment. If there aren't people in your life who can say, I don't think that's a good idea, and you hear them, even though you started off the phone conversation, hype is all get out. Ask yourself why. Is it that you are infallible and you don't need a correction? As a person of faith, we talk about God's correction all of the time. God correcting us, God sitting us down, God telling us no, God closing a door and open a window. All of that is about having something in your life that can communicate that you don't always get to continue in the path, on the path that you are on. And though it is important to be able to be corrected by the divine, though it is important to be able to hear spirit, it is also important to be able to hear other humans tell you no, right? To tell you no, and to be able to discipline yourself to fall in alignment with that. And so, if you are wanting to be a pastor of a congregation, if you're wanting to be a faithful member of the body of Christ, being able to hear and receive no, having guardrails is a part of that. That is a part of the self discipline that is essential in being a person of faith. So I would invite you to think about that, to think about who those people are in your life. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's still your parent. When you get a certain age, it'll become your children. Trust me, give it a minute. Maybe it's your best friend. Maybe it's a group of best friends. Maybe it's your guy friend. Maybe it's an old professor. Maybe it's a mentor. But who are those people that you love and trust enough that you can hear their no, and it will arrest your behaviors. I hope this has been helpful for you today. I look forward to seeing you next week. As always, I offer these words in love, not because I believe that I have all the answers, but because I know as a woman of color that we don't spend enough time talking about mental health challenges. And because we don't spend enough time talking about it, there's often a lot of stigma. I faced that stigma. I made some bad choices in my life around my own self care because of the stigma of being a person who lives with a mental health diagnosis. And so I want to do my part. I want to do my part in love to make space for us to talk about our mental health, to make space for us as people of color to talk about the challenges that we experience mentally and emotionally. And as someone who's been diagnosed with bipolar 1, I'm trying to say this as a way of beating back the shame, to say it out loud and to make space for myself in the world so that this can be a safer place for me to live. I hope what I've offered today has been received in love because it's been offered in love. I love you fiercely, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Blessings.